Are we live? Yes, we are. This is Sheriff Sparfalia, mysticalempress.com. I've already shot one video today. I decided to do another one. When these ideas are in my mind, it's better to just go ahead and get it on video. Yeah. So I decided to do one on Akashic record readings because that's a big part of my work. Before I get into the actual readings, I'm going to discuss the difference between Akashic records and past life regression because I get a lot of people calling me life. And the easiest thing to say is past life regression. I think the reason people ask a lot about them is because there's a lot of authors that talk about them having breakthroughs via past life regression. Basically, what I tell people is past life regression is you doing the work to reclaim memories, and Akashic Records gets the same memories, but I'm the one doing the work. I'm the one that finds them. It really doesn't matter who finds them. If you are someone who's a bit skeptical and you don't trust what you get intuitively, it's better for you to let someone else look into your Akashic records. If you're somebody who trusts yourself and the impressions that you receive, then past life regression is fine. I've had people go into a past life regression session and get in there and they freeze up. And when I see that happen, I just take over. I always make sure to have their records open so that if I see them stumble and fall and can't get up, I'll pick up and I'll go and find whatever it is they're looking for. I also tell people when you're seeking that kind of information, it's like walking into a library, literally the Akashic library, and or in a past life, basically, I guess that's a library too. But when you go in, you don't just go in and walk up to the library and say, "Give me whatever book you've got," because you're going to get a jumbled mess. It's better to go in with some kind of focal point, like let's say you have somebody that you can't shake. You've got this connection for somebody and you want more information. Then you walk into the library and you say, okay, this is what I'm looking for. Let's say um, Sean and I, we've got this amazing chemistry. No matter how hard I try to forget about him, I can't. So if you were doing a past life regression, you would go in and look for that. And getting back to the Akashic records, if you came to me and said, okay, I always advise my clients to come to the session with a list of topics or questions they have, because I want to use their time as efficiently as possible. I mean, you're paying by the minute, so you don't want to sit there and waste a bunch of time. I'm very cognizant, people don't just have money growing on trees, especially right now. So I'm trying to get the best use of their time. I'm not sitting there playing the clock, trying to run out the minutes so I can. So anyway, we go into the Akashic records. When I do clearings, I also have the Akashic records open, because when I have access to your soul's record, everything on all timelines, all dimensions, it can answer a lot of questions that I may find in your aura that needs to be cleared. For example, when I'm clearing people, if they have, let's say, a lot of times I'll see something on them, attached to them, that's too strong for this current life. It's like, no, there's a history here that we've got to figure out what it is. Like, I get people to bring people, like, give me names, few names of people you want to clear cords with. I get in there, and if this person appears in the session and I bring them in, none of this is in person. This is all over the phone. But I bring them in. I call them, God, bring so and so in, and they show up whether they want to or not. And when they get there, if there's like a hatred or a really, really deep love between the people, I don't know how I do it, but I can sense when it's not just on this timeline. So I'll have the records already open at the beginning, so I can go over there and look. So Akashic records give you past life information. They can give you every point on a timeline, past, present, future. Okay. You can go to multiple dimensions, and I get a lot of people that are very strict Christians that come to me. I get people who have nothing to do with Christianity. And the folks that are very strict Christians, they have a hard time with timelines and multi dimensions because the Bible doesn't specifically list that. And so the way I interpret it to them is because everything for me is quantum physics. It's all about quantum physics. I mean, that's how my mind operates in those levels. It doesn't just operate on three-dimensional terms. And I'll tell them, if you don't want to consider that this is a past life memory or a past life situation, event, what relationship, whatever, then hold this in your mind. In quantum terms, in scientific terms, for some reason, everybody believes it. If you add the word science, they believe it. And so you tell them, and I'm not trying to, spread deception here, because this is what I truly believe based on experience. I've written a book about quantum realities and shifts and things. So when I'm speaking to someone who doesn't like the concept past life regression, the reality is all time is simultaneous. It's all happening right now, which means there is no past and there is no future. It's already happening concurrently. It's hard for people. That was like the biggest concept for me to wrap my brain around way back when I started this path. So I'll say it's like having a radio or a TV. There's 45 channels on your TV, and when you turn it off, channel 8, and go to 12, 8's still playing. You're just not accessing it. So that's how these timelines are. You could be alive in 1812, 2025, or let's say 2050, as well as 2021. And that really opens people up when they start thinking in those terms. So it's not necessarily a past life memory, it's a life that you just haven't tuned into. And so you have access to it. So when you go into the Akashic records, like I said, you're opening soul records of everything ever known about you, ever will be known. But with that said, you still have free will and you can still make changes. Just because it's there doesn't mean that's the concrete reality that can never shift. You're dealing with, not only are you dealing with multiple timelines, you're dealing with multiple realities, parallel realities. And that's basically like getting back to our TV channel or our radio channel, channel 8 still exists whilst channel 10 is existing and 14 is existing. So additionally, there may be channel 8B, 8C, 8D, 10J, Z, whatever. So there's so many options to choose from when you're dealing in quantum levels. So let's say you call and you ask, will Tony and I get married? And so I go in there into the records and I see a timeline of you and Tony happily married. You've got kids, you got this big house on the lake. But I also see a timeline where you and Tony go your separate ways and you marry someone else. Does that mean one's right and one's wrong? No. That means you always have choices that you can choose from. The best movie I ever watched to metaphorically explain this was The Butterfly Effect. That movie with Ashton Kutcher, where he kept making different changes, and it kept showing how it would alter the end of the outcome, the movie with him. I don't know, there was a girl in that movie that he was all the changes he would make would affect their relationship. And that's how it in my work, I can tell which timeline or which reality you're going to choose, because it's a stronger energy. You can feel when the energy is played out. You can see the timeline, like, let's again back to relationship. You can see when the timeline is about over or it is over. The night my husband died, or the day he left, his body died the next day. But that night, I looked at his Akashic records, and I saw the end of the timeline with a heart at the end, which was Valentine's Day, the next day. And so I knew what was going to happen, and I knew when it was going to happen. So you can see timelines, and since I brought up death, that's something people fear seeing. I made an agreement a long time ago that I wouldn't predict death. If I ever do predict death, it's on accident. Now with that situation, that was my husband, and I had the right to see, but I don't look for death with people. I don't want to know about that, because most people cannot handle that knowledge, and I think it's secret for a reason. And I trust God's will and his wisdom in that. I can look at people's relationships. I can look at, let's say, well, how much longer have I got on this job? I had a guy ask me that yesterday during a clearing. We had his records open, and he was like, well, I want to know, what I should do about this job. Should I stay with it or should I leave? And I can see how much energy is before, like how much energy, or how I'll see it in terms of, I see like a straight line, and I can see if we're at the end of the line, or if the line goes way out into oblivion, or what happens. So you can see excuse me, you can see a lot of different things with Akashic record readings. You're not using a divining tool like a pendulum or a tarot card or a tea leaf or a palm. You're not using anything. You're just going in clairvoyantly, seeing the information. Sometimes you'll get smells, you can hear. But basically, I think my clearings are basically a combination of all my psychic gifts, because they all come into play when you're clearing somebody, because you're looking at their records. You're clairvoyantly seeing their records. You're seeing their past, their present, their future. You're seeing soul contracts. You're seeing how all this has impacted their ancestors, or how their ancestors have impacted them, how this has all impacted their physical form, their body. There's a lot of information. But with the records, people will say, well, what's the difference in an Akashic record and, say, a tarot reading? Tarot cards are a tool that the level of interpretation that could come out of them is based on the level of skill of the reader. With Akashic records, For me, it's typically not so symbolic. It's like watching a movie. There's a movie playing, and I'm speaking what I'm seeing to the person I'm talking to. Again, all this work's done over the phone, none of it's in person. And I laugh a lot because people get energy work, but yet they think you have to see them to do energy work, which doesn't make sense to me. I told a guy today, I said, my work is in energy, not in location. I work with people all over this planet in other countries. I'm working on so many time zones. I, I'm not real good with clock time. That's been a problem of mine my entire life. I don't resonate with clock time. So I live to the best of my ability outside of time. I do what I want to do when I want to do it, when it feels like I'm supposed to do it. And the only time I don't even schedule, most of my work is on the spot. The most it's going to take me to talk to somebody if they call and they want a reading or a clearing is a week. I don't like scheduling far out, and for me to receive something or for me to give something. So I went to this psychic, and she told me. I called her in November. I wanted to see what her skills were, and I said, well, let's do this reading. She said, well, it'll be February. I said, February? I don't even know if I'm still going to want to know what I'm asking today in February. And that's the way I operate. Now, there's some people, that are very tight on scheduling, and they need that. I don't do well like that. So I try to get work done. I mean, I do this full time. So I try to get it done as quick as possible so I can get on to the next thing. And I stay pretty busy. But when you're operating outside of clock time, you have to understand that, I mean, basically anything's possible. Time is a construct that's very limiting. And that's why the word past life is kind of limiting. So let's see if I can give you some, just off the top of my head, fun or interesting Akashic record reads that I've got. I had one lady, uh, the places you travel to when you do these Akashic records is pretty interesting. I mean, I find myself going all over the planet. I find myself going into different historical time periods. I see myself going into other star systems and planets. And so let's see, I had a woman a few weeks ago come to me, and we ended up in Transylvania. I don't remember what time period it was, but it was Transylvania, and it was time of Vlad the Impaler. We ended up there. Um, I've had a lot of people go back to biblical times, ancient Egypt. A lot of people Mayan in South America and Mexico, Native Americans. I even had cave people. I had people like really. I had this one person that went back to like cave dwellers. I mean, like very, 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 very far back. And then we'll get into. We'll see star seeds and things they lived before, things they were involved in. I've seen wars, um, Atlantis, Lemuria, um, the Syrians, the Pleiadians, the Lyrians. I've seen a lot of stuff from all these different places. And a lot of times you'll see I think one of the most beneficial about an Akashic record reading is, especially when you have a problem, And it's one of those things, damn it, I can't figure out what the problem is. Where is this coming from? Why can't I get over this? And you start looking into those records and you see, let's say you see that you were, you may have been a serial killer. You may have harmed this person that's an enemy now, and they're basically paying back to you, the harm you did before. You find out what your phobias are, oh, well, that's why I'm so afraid of the dark, or, oh, that's why I just hate that guy, and I don't even know why I hate that guy. You find out a lot of things. But as I said early on, the whole past life regression, I think some people are interested in it because they want the experience. They think it's going to be like this magical experience. And basically, what it is you go into meditation and you receive the imagery or the sounds or the smells. It just depends on what your psychic gift is, because you got to have some kind of psychic awareness about you to be able to do the regression on, by yourself. And what I mean by that is where I would be your guide in that with an Akashic record, you're just sitting there listening to me tell you what I'm seeing. But it's pretty cool because when you receive these impressions and you tell people, like I had a lady the other day, I knew going in she was going to have a problem with the word past life. And I was like, okay, God help me figure out how I'm going to communicate this with her so she doesn't freak out. And that's when I was talking about the different timelines and, quantum physics, and how somebody said to me, I think it would have been easier to just tell her past life. She probably didn't get all that. But when you look at the different timelines, so anyway, there was this person. I don't remember who the person was to her, but when I told her their past life situation, she made the comment. I could hear her in the background. She said, "That really makes sense." She said, "Now I understand why we've had this kind of relationship." So it's fascinating. I am never bored with my work. I get overwhelmed and I get wore out because moving the kind of energy I'm moving, it takes a toll on your body. And I have to stay clean spiritually. I'm not out drinking and drugging and uh, partying and all that. I can't do that. I have to be very moderate in the way that I live. I don't have drama around me. I don't have a lot of crisis around me. I can't. I have to be clear so that I'm a clear screen for the information I'm giving to people, because most of the people that are calling me have problems. They don't need my problems stacked onto their problems. So I think I have somebody sitting here. Let me be polite. Hello. Hi. Nice to have you. Thank you for being here. Um, so the past life regression, it can tell you what your talents are. A lot of people call and, what's my purpose? And that is not such a mystical question as people like to think it is. Your purpose involves your passion, and whatever your passion is going to give you clues into what your purpose is, because God gives you natural tendencies and talents so that you can fulfill his purpose for your life. uh, I was listening to a preacher this morning, and he was talking about when he first learned that he was supposed to be a preacher and stand up and talk in front of people, and he was like, I was so freaked out because I'm not a public speaker. And I was not. I mean, I remember my background's in law, and one of the classes I had to take was public speaking. And I was trying to figure out anything I could do to get out of that class. That was just a piece. And that's what he said. He said, he said, I'd start stuttering anytime I had to talk in public. And I was like, God, I'm not going to do this job. He's a teacher. He was a teacher to his core, and he was a messenger. So he got over that little hump. The passion was there to teach and to lead. And so, that was his purpose. And that's all of us have that. We have a natural desire towards our passions. And once you look at your passions, then when you really sit down and look at them, I like to write lists. I journal a lot, and I like to write a list and tell me, explore a subject. And when you write the list and you see your passions, generally it comes together as this colorful tapestry of what you have to offer. For me, I I was someone always been a leader, always teaching, uh, writing, any form of communication, and so I ended up in a career that brings all that together. And it was not. I didn't sit down one day and say, "Okay, this is what I'm going to do." No, as I just said, my background's in law. I was going to be a lawyer. And I've had a lot of really exciting careers in my life. But anyway, that's getting off subject. The Akashic records are going to work for you in the way that you approach them. If you approach them with some kind of roadmap of where you're wanting to go and what you're wanting to investigate, then you can get information. If you just go into either past life regression or Akashic, you're just like, tell me what you know. I don't ever play that game. When people call me, I say, no, give me some idea of what you're interested in. And especially with the Akashic records of the past life regression. Um, because if you go into it and don't know, you don't have any clue what you want to know about, the information can be jumbled, and it can be very confusing, and especially with past life. Because if people go into that, your average person goes into a past life regression session and they don't have any clue about what they want to know about, they get a little disheartened with the jumbled up information, and then they don't trust what they're getting, and then that kind of shuts the whole thing down. So if you're wanting to have an experience like that, I say try it, go to somebody. I do them. I take people through them. Try it out. Try out an Akashic record reading and see which one you prefer. Because, there's people that's wanting to develop their psychic gifts, so they want that experience to see what they can come up with. You don't necessarily need somebody to uh, help you recover a past life memory. You can do that on your own. There's guided meditations that you can do. The Akashic, for me, I took a course. I studied that and got certified in it or whatever that was. But I took a course, several weeks, to learn how to do that. So I don't know. I don't know if you don't have that background, if you can just, I don't know. Edgar Casey did it. He didn't have any instruction. So, but yeah, Akashic record readings, I tell people it's more of a soul level perspective. I'll give you an example. So, if you go into an Akashic record reading and you say, well, I want to know about, let's say, this career. Is this the career I need to take? So you pull some tarot cards. The tarot cards are going to tell you, I would say the tarot cards for me is like a superficial, like, not superficial, like it doesn't mean anything, but like shallow water um reading. It's basic questions, answers, kind of yes, no. Okay, give me a little bit more. Okay, yeah, that looks like a good career. It's going to go into this, it's kind of go in this direction. You go to the Akashic records with that career question, and the Akashic records is like, or uh one is very tarot is like you only have a few colors to paint with, and Akashic, you've got the whole palette. So basically, it's going to give you a deeper understanding of the question or the topic, and it's going to give you a more spiritual perspective. So, we ask the question on your career in tarot, and it's like, okay, da, 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 da. Akashic, it's going to be okay, because people in this career choice, you're going to reach many people, and you're going to be able to um, help them grow and evolve, that kind of thing. It's meteor. It's a meteor response to what you're trying to ask. It may also say, yes, you did this kind of work in another lifetime. This time you plan on taking that talent further. It's going to go into maybe historical background of you regarding that question. It's going to go into future information about it. And it may, even tell you, yes, you're going to start with this career choice. It's a stepping stone because your ultimate path. That's what I'm trying to say. I personally, a lot of psychics don't read themselves. And to be very honest with you, the whole purpose I ever developed my gifts, astrology, feng shui, psychic, any of it was for me. I didn't do any of this because I thought I was going to do it for other people. I did it because I needed answers for myself. And I wasn't finding any satisfactory answers in other people. So I learned, and I read myself all the time. God sends me dreams. I get random messages. I can turn on YouTube, watch a video, and bam, there's an answer I was looking for. Um, I go into my own Akashic records. I do my own clearings. I read my own astrology chart. So I use this stuff for myself. And, but the Akashic records, they give me a lot of information about what's going on in my life. They help me to understand the spiritual significance of what's going on in my life. You know, I'm able to see a broader perspective than just a flat, this is the obvious answer, that kind of thing. I don't know if I'm saying this the right way, but I make these videos based on calls that I get from people. And this is something people ask me a lot about. They're just now getting to where they're hearing about Akashic records, and there's a lot of authors that are writing about past life regressions, and so they call me and they ask me, what's the difference, what should I do? Let's see what you've put over here. How do I get to know about myself through the Akashic records? Well, as I've said after I said it, but as I've said, when you go into the Akashic records, see yourself walking in a library. If you go in the library and you look at the librarian and you say, tell me about myself. And the librarian is going to be like, what? And you're like, well, you've got 1,000 books in here. Pull one and just read it to me. And the librarian's like, no, tell me your passion. And you love to knit. So then she knows to go to the knitting section. With the Akashic records, it's always good to about getting to know yourself. You could refine that question a little bit more. Like, I'd like to know what my purpose is. I'd like to know why I'm drawn to art. I'd like to know more about my spiritual life. That's a very broad question. So basically, what I'm trying to say is the narrower the question, I don't mean it has to be just like point blank, this is what I want to know. But the narrower you make the question, the more accurate the answer is going to be. Okay. So you go into the records looking for specific topics or even specific questions, but everything there is to know about you is there. Um, and it's very helpful information. When I go into the records, I don't work with spirits, I don't work with guides, I work with the Holy Trinity. And when I go up, I ask for whoever the person's their name, I say, and then Angel always brings me a book. And I sit there and I turn immediately to your current life. And again, we talked about past lives. To say that in another way, I ask for the timeline you're on right now in front of me, who or on the phone, who I'm talking to, where I need the information around that person's in life. So now it's interesting. This week, I had a couple of people show up, and when the angel handed me their records, there was a bookmark. And I'm like, okay, we'll see about that. So one of the bookmarks was telling me, this is a star seed. This they need to know this information. I flipped to that part of the book, and that's what it said. And so um, there's so much information out there that people are not aware of because they don't know which direction to go find the information, or their mind's too closed to not receive the information. Let's see what you said. I once tried doing the guided meditation inside the library, and since then I feel nauseous while trying the guided meditation. Okay. I don't want to panic anybody in this video, but this is addressed in the comments. You have to be very careful when you're working on the spiritual planes. And this is something that most New Age philosophy does not teach you. When you're working on the spiritual planes and you're not protected, you're passing through four-dimensional and things of that matter, spirits, entities, things like that. And it's basically like, I had an astrologer tell me this. The first astrology reading I ever got before I became an astrologer, her name was Jean Avery, and she was a world famous astrologer. And she told me, she said, I don't recommend meditation. Well, back then I didn't know anything about meditation. I didn't really care, but I listened. I was being respectful. And she put all this on a recording, so I was able to go back and listen to it over the years. But she said, meditation opens you up to everything. So it's like sitting in your house at 1:00 in the morning and going and opening up your front door and say, hey, whatever's out there, come on in. That's what happens. So anytime you're working with spiritual realms, you need protection. You need to be shielded. When I work with people and I take them in, especially with clearings, because I take me when I do clearings. I don't usually take people with me when I do Akashic records. I leave them where they're at. But when I say take them with me, I go up to a plane and going up vertically. That's just metaphoric. You're not really going up, but that's the best way to describe it to people. So when I take people with me, I take them through their 13th chakra, which is back here behind your head, at the base of your skull, at the top of your spine. Now, I learned that from a guy on YouTube. I watched every video he had out, and he talked about that. When you go into there, you are in here and you're safe. I always here and work my way up to different worlds to get to the Holy Trinity to do my Akashic record work. Um, a lot of people who are Akashic record readers, they'll go to different countries, different lands, whatever. But that's how I do it. But I always teach people, go into this chakra back here so that you're safe. If you want to pray, if you want to go looking for information, and chances are, you may be going to another realm. You could be going to the spiritual realm, and that's where there's a lot of tricksters. Like I said, that's the demons and the entities and all of that jazz. So you have to be careful. They don't teach you enough about being careful when it comes to new age stuff. But that's probably nausea is not a good sign when you're working in the spiritual realm. That could be psychic attack is what that could be. So that's not a good indication that you're in the right place. But yeah, you could do the Akashic records. You need to be careful. I honestly don't meditate. I don't. And I know a lot of people, who do. That's part of their spiritual practice. Prayer, devotion, prayer is what I do. Reading the Bible's what I do. I talk to God, talk to the Holy Trinity a lot. But I don't meditate. That's not something I do. I tried years ago. I did it for a little while. I never really got anything out of it. I know people who do, but that's not my gig. And I do a really good job of keeping myself clean and clear without it. So that's my way. Some people have other ways. I'm not discounting their ways. I'm just saying if you're going to route, you definitely need to be chill so that you don't pick stuff up. But yeah, I think I've covered everything I wanted to say about the Akashic records. Sometimes people will say, how many lifetimes have I lived or whatever? Tell me the angel's name. I don't ever ask for names because, in their language, it may not even be something I can pronounce. Somebody did that to me. Tell me the angel's name in my Akashic book, and I asked the angel, and it was like nothing I could pronounce. So I was like, okay, I can't do that. As far as how many lifetimes, Sati told me once I only had 3 lifetimes. Well, I've pulled up more than that. So I don't know that that's necessarily a conclusive answer you can get, especially considering, you're welcome, especially considering the various timelines and parallel realities and things. That's not something I would necessarily concern myself with. I found that a lot of people here right now, we're looking at what the Bible predicts as the end times. And all of us that are here now are here for a purpose. And I have found I've been very passionately teaching people, trying to wake people up, trying to get them on their spiritual path. And I was doing readings on myself, and it kept coming back saying, what you're living now stems in past lives. And so I said, well, I'm going to look at that. I'm going to see what the deal is. And I pulled up past life memories where I have been in collapsing civilizations, where I've been in destructive, chaotic collapses. And it made sense of why I knew what was coming here, why I sensed it, why I was receiving dreams about it, way, way back, and why I've been so passionate and so driven to warn people and to prepare people. It didn't make sense because it's like, within the last few years, this button turned on, this switch got flipped, and all of a sudden I was just driven. I've got to teach people, I've got to tell people, I've got to warn people, I've got to wake people up. And I'm like, okay, this is like exhaustive, the drive towards this. And when I finally saw that, and I saw this in the Akashic records, when I finally saw where it originated from, I was able to settle down into it. I was able to um, understand my extreme drive towards it and my need to help as many people as I could. So that's just an example of something you can get from your Akashic record. It makes sense of things that may seem over the top or imbalanced or just that doesn't make sense to you. So anyway, thank you. Thank you over here in the chat. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it helped clarify some things. If you want to learn my work, you can go to mysticalempress.com. I've got a Facebook page, Mystical Empress. I've got other videos you can watch. I just try to put out information to help answer questions and give people direction. So anyway, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.